So we have seen that how a storage class works. So we have seen that how a storage class works for different program. Now we will go for a different another part that is what we call preprocessor in C. Now what is preprocessor? Let's try to realize it first. You see, uh, when we write a program and when it executes, generally we just press some particular option and it starts executing, or maybe it shows some error. Now in between writing a program and executing, what are the steps that we generally ignore? We don't realize it because they are not visible clearly to us. But if you closely watch what are the steps we have before executing the file, because execution of the program require creating an executive file, right? Creating an executive file require many steps. So the steps that is actually written over here, the edit part, this edit part actually we write the program in this edit phase and we get the execution of the or the output of the program in the execute phase. Now in between edit and execute phase we have four different other phases that we ignore. The first one is pre-process. What is pre-process? I will come very soon. So let's do write it, I mean define it in a one line. Pre-process is it's take your program that you have written and it add or delete some specific line, depends on some cases, some criteria. So we will discuss that very soon. It edit that. The compiler basically edit your program, modify your program. It sometimes it adds some lines, sometimes it deletes some lines without changing the logic. Okay, and that is what we call pre-process. And after pre-processing, a code is generated that is what we call intermediate code. Okay, so this is your exact actual code that you have written, and after pre-processing the code that will be generated is called intermediate code, and that intermediate code is actually compiled, whether it is correct or not and all. And after compilation, object file is created which is linked with the libraries that you have used in your program, and then it is loaded in the memory and then it's executed. So a lot of steps are there. Now we will concentrate on this preprocessor part only. So preprocessor looks something like this. This is your original program. It's preprocess. It generates an intermediate code. Then it's basically compiled, produces an output object code. So you see, by definition, a preprocessor is a program that processes our source program before it is passed to the compiler. Okay. Now there are some features that we will discuss here. It present in this preprocessing, and those are actually called preprocessor directives. Okay, and there is a specific way to actually realize where the preprocessor directives are. These preprocessor directives are actually used by, I mean started by hash symbol. So till now, without any knowledge of preprocessing, you have used this preprocessor directive because you have written hash include stdio.h or hash include conaio.h. Why you are writing, you know that. I hope you know that why you are including stdio.h, but what the meaning of hash you didn't have any idea before today. Actually that particular hash you are writing, that representing that you are using the line such that before compiling your program some pre-processing will happen because of that line. So what pre-processing will happen, one by one we will see. So You know, for example, just the example that I have told you, include hash include str.h like this. So you see, there are four different types of preprocessor directives. Okay, macro expansion, file inclusion, conditional compilation, and miscellaneous directive. So one by one, we will see these preprocessor directives, and uh, we will see different examples by which we will realize that how exactly this preprocessor directive works. For example, mm, first one is what we call macro expansion. What does macro expansion mean? Macro expansion is actually defined in this way. Okay, like this. Hash define, then a variable name. Although it is not variable, still just for time being, you I hope you can try to imagine it as a variable name and then in some value. But it has a specific format. What is the format? Hash define, then space, then the name, then again space, then its value. There is no equal sign. Okay. Now, what is this macro expansion? A macro is a fragment of code which has been given a name. That means it's something like instead of writing 3.1415 every time in your program, you have given a nickname of this part, this particular value as pi. That is the thing. So this is what a macro is actually. So your macro is this one. You see, this is what given. A macro is a fragment of code which has been given a name. So this is the fragment of the code which has been given a name. Now, whenever the name is used, it is replaced by the contents of the macro. That means whenever you will use this one, it will be replaced by its content. Okay. So now what will happen? We will see. Now obviously there are two types of macro. We will see these two types of macro very soon. For example, for the first type, that is object like macro, the object like macro is an identifier that is replaced by a value, some numeric value maybe. For example, if I go for a program like this, you can say hash define x4 like this, and then a equal to x. Now exactly what will happen, when you write a program, so this is your original code, right? This is your original code. Now after pre-processing, the code that will be generated is that this particular part will get vanished, void main, another part will remain there, int a will be there, and a equal to, instead of x, this x will be replaced by the value 4 like this. I mean, this is what actually told over here, that this particular point. Yes, what it is given, I mean, I think given over here. Yes, this one, this second point. Whenever the name is used, it is replaced by the content of the macro. So wherever the name x has been used, this x name has been used in the program, instead of x it will replace by 4. So this particular code is, you can say, your intermediate code. Which will go for compilation. Okay. Don't think that this program go for compilation. This no. This is prepares first. something, as I told you, some code is added, some is deleted. Here this particular line is deleted. Instead of that, x is replaced by the value 4. Same thing for this program also. That means if you write a program like this, for example, you write a program main, suppose you have written hash define, say x5, you have written int a equal to 1, and then you have written a equal to a plus x, and then printf %d a. You will see that it will produce result 6. Why? Because this code will be pre-processed and the actual code will look something like this. Main and then int a equal to 1, then a equal to a plus, this particular part will vanish in the intermediate code. Instead of x, 5 will be replaced, right? And print %d a. So naturally it is correct. A equal to a plus 5 is a valid code, no issue, and it will produce correct result. But if you do something different, for example, if you write instead of a equal to a plus x, if you write, say, just I'm writing in a different color so that you can realize where is the changes. I'm writing here x equal to x plus a. Same thing, only I'm trying to write in x. And if you print x, you will get syntax error. Why? The reason is that since you have written like this, it will get replaced by the code something like, it will get replaced by the code over here, something like 5 equal to 5 plus a. Right. Now you see this particular program, this particular line doesn't have any, is not syntactically correct, because according to C language, in the left side of equal sign must be a proper destination. Destination, or you can say variable. If you don't put a proper variable or proper destination, you will get a syntactical error. Specifically, you will get an error, L value required. This error you will get. What is L value? This one is called L value. This is what we call L value. And whatever present in the right side is called P value. Okay. L value required means you have not given your destination of the variable properly. So we will see an example, I'll work out example later. Anyway, so I hope now you can understand. So naturally question will come that why I will write macro. Because you see in some cases writing macro creates a very efficient program. By the way, a very important point is here, that is you cannot mix the macro with a variable. I mean, if you think about the memory space for the main function of this, in this memory space you will have a space for a. whose value is 1, at least from this line. But there will be no such location for x. No. Because this is not variable. This is just a symbol. This is a symbol. Which will be replaced by its content when the program will get executed. That means x does not have any physical existence. But A has. Whatever A has a specific memory location, but X does not have. And that is why you will get an error like this. So anyway, so now question is that how we can use this macro in different cases. We will see. We can use the macro in this way also. Instead of writing and, we can write, instead of writing double and like this, we can replace it by and. I mean, I can say that if A and B, but this A and D will not have any, this A and D keyword really does not exist in C. We have defined it for our purpose. So when actual program will be executed, this and will be replaced by A and then B, like this. Something like this. And same thing. Now here it is not ends. It can have, you can have many more different cases of macro. For example, we can have a macro with a argument also. Argument in the sense just like a function, you can say, but not function. For example, something like this. We can use is excellent within bracket x greater than equal to 70, greater than equal to 75. So that means what we are doing? We are writing a program something like this. Suppose we are checking whether the student is, how much good it is, good a student is. So we can write that if x, suppose x is the student's marks, is greater than equal to 75, then he is good. I mean printf good. Okay, I'm not writing printf anyway. Now instead of writing in this way, I can write this like if is excellent within x good. And when the program, this is original code, when this will be pre-processed, after pre-processing, this is excellent will be replaced by this line. So when the program will execute, actually program will execute this line. So this particular is excellent will be replaced by this condition, and then whatever code I have written, that remains same. So this is a difference. So just always remember, if you write hash define p, then some value, wherever p is used in the program will be replaced by the value. That's all. If you realize it once, I don't think you will have any confusion regarding using macro, how to use macro. So obviously you will have some practice that how you can do this. For example, like this one, this is very vital. You see, I have written a for loop. I can do this. I can have more than one lines in a macro, keeping a slash at the end, but not in the last line. So if you write this and within the main program, if you write H line, that's all, what will happen? This H line will be replaced by this code, this particular code. At the time of after pre-processing. That is the thing. So that is why in some cases he will say that okay, it looks like function. So what is the difference? Actually, there is a lot of difference with respect to function. The first is that in case of function, we know that when the function is called, then it is then the memory location is allocated for the function. Then some job is done, and when the control return back from the function, then the memory deallocated, right? But when you are using a macro like this, what we have seen in previous slide, it's not a function. So that's why there is no scope or no way of allocating or deallocating any memory for this external, separately. So it's just the replacement of the code, just. Okay. Now, that's why naturally, suppose you are using a function, you have written a function, you have written main and another function fun. Some lines is there. Now what you have done? You have called this function fun many times in your line. Maybe again you have called here. 3 times you have done this. So what will happen? From main, function will be called first time. Then again it will return back. For the first time it will be called and then return back. Second time again function fun main will be called. Again second time will be called. Again it will return back. I'm just keeping a number so that we can realize how many times this is happening. And third time again the function fun will get called. And again it will return back. Now naturally for calling and returning back some time is wasted. But instead of doing this, if you replace the code of the function within a macro, then what will happen? In the original code there will be no calling. This part will be replaced over here. Just so there is nothing about calling anything, calling a particular chunk of code. So naturally program will be faster. That's why macro makes the program faster. But obviously, if we have a number of lines within this function fun, if you replace them within all different parts, what will happen? The length of the program will increase naturally, right? And that's why you see it's given increase the program size. But this is a benefit from function side, that it makes the program smaller and compact. Okay. So these are the very important difference with respect to macro and function. And now we will see the next what you can say, the next preprocessor directive, that is file inclusion. So in the last class we have ended our discussion on the macro expansion. So we have seen different type of macro is possible, and we have also seen what is the basic difference of macro with a function. Now we will start with the second preprocessor directive that we have, and that is what we call file inclusion. You see, this file inclusion actually you have used maybe unintentionally till date in your program, the file inclusion is actually required in a sense, like in most of the cases it happens that you are uh, writing a program and that requires some functions, and that function may be written in some another file, the definition of the function or actually how it works. So in that case, at the time of using those predefined functions, you have to include uh, those files where the definition is written, so that when the program will execute, the computer will execute the instructions in your program, then the the purpose of the function is known to the compiler or the computer. Specifically, in case of uh, C programming languages, we have used a lot of predefined C library functions, something like you can say printf, scanf, getch, and many more, right? And the definition of those predefined functions are written in some files, specifically what we call header file. So you have included those header files that you require in your program. So how you have done that? You have done in this particular way. You have written something like hash include and then the file name like stdio.h or conio.h or math.h and many more. So that means unintentionally you have used the concept of file inclusion preprocessor directive in your program, but maybe you didn't have exact idea that what the file inclusion mean. Anyway, so if we continue with this part, you see, if we elaborate the reason of using this file inclusion preprocessor directive, I think now it will be much more clear. For example, just what I told you, that divide a program into multiple files, each file containing various functions, and when you are using those functions, you record those files to include in your program. And the example that I have just told you in the previous slide is actually written over here. So I hope you have understood what does file inclusion mean. So you see, this file inclusion is used to include one file into another file, or it simply causes the entire content of one file to be inserted into the source code of another file, and that is the only purpose. Okay, so it's not true that only header files can be included. You can include other C files also. Okay, or maybe some another extensions with some another file with some different extension, depends on your requirement. Okay, so this is all about the file inclusion, but there is a very small difference that we generally use in case of file inclusion, that in some cases, I mean, actually you are habituated to write your file inclusion part when you are including header files in this way: hash include within angular bracket the header file name .h. But this is not the only way. You can write within a single double quote also, like this, that is written over here. You see, you know, from a programmer point of view, generally when you are writing a program, whether you use double quote or angular bracket, you will not realize the difference actually. But if you think that you are including some user defined header files, like you have created your own header file for some purpose, and then where the header files you have kept depends on that, you have to choose either double quote or angular bracket. For example, in case of double quote, when a header file is, when you are including some file, not header file, any file in a double quote, it basically search that particular file in the directory where your program a program, I mean, the C file present, I mean in the same directory, okay, in the same directory. But if you keep in a angular bracket, then that particular file is actually checked in the directory of the present directory of the header files. So you will find, when if you have your C compiler in your machine, you will find there will be some folder definitely present where you will find all different header files. Maybe hundreds of header files are present, and some of you maybe know, like standard input output.h or corner.h or math.h or graphics.h or malloc.h or something like that. But that all the header files are present in a particular directory. Some header files name, and the directory name is itself maybe header file. Okay. So when if you write this double quote, actually compiler, the computer search that file within that folder directly. But if you write in a double quote, so that compiler basically try to find the file within the current directory, and if it is not available in the current directory, then it check in the header file directory, like that. So that means if you write include stdio.h within double quote, still you will not get any error, because the compiler will search stdio.h in the directory where you are writing the program. Obviously compiler will not able to find that. So in that case, compiler, after when the compiler will not find the file stdio.h within the current directory, it will go to the header file directory and find that. So since those header files are already present in a predefined location, you will not realize the difference exactly using double quote or angular bracket. But when you will use your own header files that you have created, you have written, then you have to think about this carefully. Like if you keep that header file that you have created within the current directory, and then if you use double quote, I mean angular bracket, then you will get an error. Because if you keep angular bracket, compiler will realize that the file is definitely present in the header file directory. It will not search the file in the current directory. And if you don't put in the header file directory, you will get the error. So this is the difference only. Okay. Now let's come back. Let's go to the third category of third category of the preprocessor directive. That is what we call conditional compilation. And under the conditional compilation, you see, let's first realize what does it mean and why it is required. You see, during learning time, you are writing very small programs or very simple programs rather, right? Now assume that you are writing a program, you are designing a software in some language, and the software should run in different type of machines. Some machines like having different operating systems. So it may happen that, for example, some set of code should run in Microsoft in the Microsoft Windows operating system, which is not compatible with Linux operating system. So in case of Linux operating system, another set of code should run, but that previous code should not run. Similarly, for other operating system, maybe some another code is present. So as a programmer, what you will do? When you are writing program, you don't know that where that particular program is going to be used. So you cannot write more than one version of the program having different set of instructions. In this situation, what actually we can do? We can write different type of instruction in a different part of the program, and we keep a condition that based on the condition, one of the chunk will get executed, and the condition based on definitely some operating system or maybe something like that. And here the conditional compilation will be important. So conditional compilation means based on some condition, some set of code will be compiled and some set of code will not get compiled although written within the program. Now how we can do this? We can do this by using this preprocessor directive, where we have lot of different type of preprocessing part. So we will realize this if def, end if, else, if end def, and many things. And let's come back. Proceed one by one. If def, it means if defined. Means suppose there is a variable, or suppose you have defined some symbol. Okay, you have defined some symbol. If the symbol is defined, then some set of code will get executed. If the symbol is not defined, then that will not get executed. So you don't need to keep a you need to give a comment of all those lines. Rather, you just comment out only the definition part, and depends on that some code will run and some code will not run. For example, obviously if I do some if I say only the theory, it's not going to be clear fully, I know. So let's see what are the different situations, and then we will we will see how in a program it actually happens. We will have some hands-on session. So first thing is that the approach of writing conditional compilation using if def is something like this. You see, it's something like this. What is given? That if def some block. This block should not be written. This particular block is given just as a template. Okay, so if def some symbol name, then within this if def and end if we have a program, right? It's a program is written. Now whether this program will get compiled or not, it will depend upon whether that block is defined by some hash define or not. Okay, so let's take an example over here. So just a minute. Okay, so I cannot find a pen over here anyway. So we will see in the hands-on session, there you will find out. But one thing you must understand, it must be clear to you that we have a program, a raw program having all this written. Now if this block is not defined, then in the intermediate code this entire line will not exist. And that actually we know, right? That we have seen that the execution of a program has several steps. The first two is you are writing a program, that is first preprocessed. After preprocessing, an intermediate code is generated, which is further linked with some libraries, then loaded, then executed and all. Now after preprocessing the intermediate code that will get generated, question is that whether this particular for loop will present in the intermediate code or not. It will depend upon whether the block is defined or not. That's why it's given if def. Okay, and for every if you must have an end if. That's why this end if is given. But since they are preprocessor, that's why this hash is must. If you don't put hash, compiler will not consider this one as a preprocessor part. It will consider as simple part. Anyway, it will, obviously you can easily understand, you will get an error. So let's see. This is what a situation that actually I was trying to tell you, that run the same code on different environment. Like if def Windows, suppose that if the Windows you are considering the program is running on Windows, then some set of statement. If it is not running in Windows, maybe Linux, then some another set of statement. So whether this first statement sequence or second statement sequence will run, that will depend, I mean, that not run actually, in the intermediate code, whether this statement sequence will be present or this statement sequence will be present depends upon whether Windows is, defined or not. One of them will be there in the intermediate code, but not both will be present because it is preprocessor directive. So now the general form of writing if def is something like this, and you see this is already we have discussed that how we can write this, and same thing over here. So let's do one thing, let's try to realize with some examples. Okay, then I hope it will be much more clear to all of you. So basically we have used here online C compiler, so that where we can see that if I write some program, then what happens. For example, we will start from the very beginning of the preprocessor definition. So let's write, let's copy the programs first. You see, this is the program. I have included this one. So already I have a file inclusion preprocessor directive here that I cannot ignore, right? And here we have a macro definition. You see, I have written define x5. That means x is a symbol, I told you, which is represented by 5. That means when this particular program will gets converted to a intermediate code, there all the places where x is erased in the program will be replaced by 5. So ultimately in the original, this is the original code, and in the intermediate code everything will remain same, only a equal to a plus a, instead of a equal to a plus x, it will be a equal to a plus 5, that's all. And if you run this program, you will see, you will get result 6. You see, you are getting result 6 because x was 5, so a was 1, so 1 plus 5 is 6, that is stored in a, which is fine. But as I told you that instead of a, if I write x, instead of a, if I write x, then what will happen? Then what will happen? Then you see, basically, if you run this program, you see you are getting this error, and here the error is, you see, L value required. This is what I told you in the class. You will get an error, and the error will show some L value required, and this L value required mean, always remember one thing, that L value required mean definitely during assigning something, the compiler is not able to get a proper destination, because when you are writing x equals to x a plus x, that means when this intermediate code will be generated from this program, this ax equal to a plus x will generate 5 equal to a plus 5. A plus 5 is possible. A is an integer and 5 is also an integer. But the result cannot be stored in a 5. 5 cannot be a valid memory allocation, or you can say variable. And that is why you are getting this error, L value required. So now let's go for the next type of problem. So again we will write another problem here. You see, just same thing I have written. You see, I have written int a equal to 10, b equal to 5. Now why I have considered this one? Because if you do a binary of 10, you will get it's 1010. If you do it in your copy, in your home, you will find it's 1010. And if you do the binary of 5, you will get 101. Or if we keep the number length of the two numbers same, then b means the binary of b will become 0101. Okay. So, and in the macro expansion, I have defined capital AND in this way. Like, what is this? This is my logical AND, right? And what logical AND means? What we have seen in case of what is the feature that we have seen in of the logical AND, that is if the both side of the logical AND has some non-zero value, we will get 1 as the output, right? And if one of them is 0, then I will get 0. So in the both side of this capital AND, I have non-zero value. A is 10, B is 5. So both are non-zero. Since both are non-zero, then if you run the program, so if I write the result equal to, so maybe it will be much more realistic. So you see, you will get result equal to 1 because both are non-zero. That's fine. Now the difference, the result will get more interesting if we change the definition of this capital AND by a single AND, because single AND means bitwise AND, right? That means 10 and 5 will have a bitwise AND operation. If we have a bitwise AND operation, obviously you have to do it in a binary level. So binary of 10 is 1 0 1 0. Binary of B is, that means 5 is 0 1 0 1. Just a complementary of 10, right? If you do bitwise AND, what you will see? Either of them in every bit, I mean, if you check from the right post or left post, doesn't matter, you will see that either of them are 0, right? Either when in a particular ith position, if A is if the bit of A is 1, then bit of B becomes 0. If the bit of A is 0, bit of B is 1, right? So naturally the bitwise AND result will become all zeros, 4 zeros actually. So 4 0 means 0. So that's why you will see, if you do this, you will get result equal to 0. So now I think it will be clear that how this preprocessor macro is actually working. So let's go further with again the macro part. That is, I have written, as I told you, a line having multiple, preprocessor definition having multiple lines, something like this. What is given over here? What this particular preprocessor is, meaning is that the hash define fun within bracket x. So here you see we have not defined x as a variable. You see, we have not defined because x is a symbol. So that means, and if this, what does fun within bracket x means? It means something like this. Now since it's in a multiple line, that's why after every line I have kept a slash, you see, but not in the last line. There is no slash in the last line. And remember, if we have multiple lines, I have to keep them within a opening and closing, double opening and closing second brace. And this slash already you know. And what this for loop is meaning is, it's printing something, some result. So what is the purpose of this? You see, in this program, in the main program, I have defined A as 5 and I, and here I have declared fun within bracket A. See, since fun within bracket X is the same type of fun within bracket A, so what compiler will do? Compiler will place the structure of this program over here in place of fun within bracket A. And here this A is the argument. Remember, this fun is not a function. This is a macro that is defined over here in such a way, considering this argument A, whose value is 5 over here, whoever value, that means this X is basically 5. So basically this will print I equal to 0, I less than equal to 5, I plus plus, then printf %d 5 plus I. That is why if you run this program, you will see you will get a result 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 because x is already 5 because of this a, and I was initially 0, so 5 plus 0 5, then I become 1, 5 plus 1 6. In this way up to 5 it is running, so 5 plus 5 10. That's why you will get this particular result. So from this example, one thing is clear, that how a macro definition having multiple lines are executed, right? Now if I go further with some a little more complex code, not complex rather, I mean let's go for a different preprocessor directive that we have just discussed is what we call conditional compilation. So we will place here a code for conditional compilation, something like this. You see what is given, that I have defined this header files, fine, and here suppose I have defined IS5. Okay, and what I have written, that if this I is defined, then this set of line will, this particular program will be, this particular line will be there in the preprocessor directive. If the I is not defined, then this line will be there. So with respect to this particular program, if I ask you that this is a raw code, right? This is not a preprocessed code. It will go through preprocessor. After preprocessing, in the intermediate code, which particular lines will be present and which lines not, then you should say that obviously this line will not present. No, because this is a preprocessor part. Preprocessor part doesn't present in the preprocessed code. Rather, they are replaced in the original code wherever they have used. That means this particular line will not be there. Even this line will not be there. Instead of that, what will happen, you know? You will see that instead of keeping, presenting this line, the content of this standard input output dot h will be present in the same program. Okay, and so this line will not present, this line will not present, but the by replacing this particular line will be replaced by whole content of stdio.h. Now how we can get a proof of this? How I can prove this? I will prove this one after some time. So just for timing, you know this, and this line will be there. Obviously, this is a normal code. Then, since I have defined I, that's why this will be true. That's why this particular line will be present on the intermediate code, but this line will not present. All these lines will not present. Okay, so in the intermediate code, you know what will happen? This line will not exist. This line will not exist. Rather, suppose this is a program. These lines will be there. I'm just writing arbitrarily. I'm writing some lines, assuming that these lines are present within the stdio.h file. Suppose. So this line will be there. This line will be here. But this line will not present, because since defined I was defined, that's why this particular line will be there. All the other lines will not present, and obviously this line will be there because this is under no condition, and the other lines will be present. So your intermediate code will look something like this. Okay. Anyway, so let's realize it. Try to realize this from example. So if I run this program, then you will see it will get I is defined. That means this line was there in the intermediate code. That's why this was printed. And this line was not there in the intermediate code. That's why this line is not present. But obviously this line is not under any condition, so that's why the common part is there. If you just comment out this line, so assume that this line is not present, you have not yet defined I. So naturally you will see your result will become opposite one. That is, in this situation you see this line, it's printing I is not defined. That means since you have not defined I, this line become vanished in the intermediate code. That's why this line is not present in the output. Rather, this line is present because it is in the else part, and obviously common part will be there. So this is a example by which you can realize that how conditional compilation is running. Now, if I do the same thing, almost do the same thing, actually, we can do a conditional compilation in a different way also. Let's write it here. That is this one. You see, here we have not written if def like previous case. Here I have written only if, because we want to give some condition directly. It's not about whether it is defined or not. I am sure that it is defined, but what is the value over there depends on that. Suppose you want to do some computation, you want to decide that whether which particular line should be there and which line will not. In this situation, we don't use the preprocessor part like if def or if ndef. Rather, we use hash if, hash elif, hash else. Hash elif means else if. I hope you can easily realize. And obviously hash ndef will be there. You see, the purpose is different. I'm telling you again. Two things are different. In the previous case, we have defined some variable and we have decided to print something based on whether the variable is defined or not. But in this case, we have also defined some variable and we are sure that variable is defined. But based on the macro value of that variable, we are taking decision. And that's why instead of writing if def, we are writing only hash if. That is the difference. So if you run this program, naturally you will see that you can easily, I hope you can easily predict that which particular statement will get executed, that is x equal to 5, x is 5, right? If you just change your data over here, what will happen? You will see x is 6 because this will get executed. This if condition will be false, so it will come in else if part, this will be true. Now if you consider any other value than 5 and other than 5, 6, obviously will come in else part and this will get printed, right? Now let's see if I do this one. I mean, if I have not yet defined this one, so what will happen? You are getting this one because since you have not defined this one, that means naturally content of x is not 5, content of x is not 6 because x doesn't exist, right? Now since whatever the reason is, since these two are not true, naturally else part will be true and you will get this particular one as a result. So remember one thing, it's not something like in the original code all these 3 lines are present. Actually in the intermediate code, one of these 3 lines will exist and that will get compiled, not all these 3. Okay, so this is all about the basic situation of basic example that you can use to realize how the preprocessor directives are working. So now one thing is left, that as I told you, that somehow we have to prove that the number of lines, we have to prove that this stdio.include stdio.h, this particular line will be replaced by some another the content of the header files right over here. So let's see. So let's see how we can do this. So now see, let's see how we can prove this about the at least proof of the existence of the intermediate code. So suppose I am writing a very simple program of 2 lines only. Include stdio.h. Okay, and then I'm writing say void main and then I'm writing say printf hello world. That's all. The program is not important. Important is that if I try to find how many lines is compiled, how many lines he will say? He will say that it's 3 or 4 lines, right? So let's check it. How many lines is compiled? If I press it, what is it showing? Total number of lines is being compiled 312. So many lines is compiled. So, but your program is only 2 or 3 lines. So from where the other 300, more than 300 lines are coming? To realize this, let's do one thing. Let's inactivate this particular line. Sorry. Inactivate this particular line. So as if the hash include stdio.h is not present. And after this, if you compile again, you will see it's showing lines compiled 4. Yes, I have the 4 lines. Void main, line number 1, then opening brace, line number 2, printf statement, line number 3, and a closing brace, line number 4. Total number of lines compiled 4, that is correct. Now, by adding this particular only one line, total number of lines compiled should be 5. But instead of that, it is showing total number of lines compiled 312. The reason is that actually, as I told you, that the compilation is done on the intermediate code, not the original code that you have written, right? So what actually is happening, the original code that I have written over here is preprocessed, and the intermediate code that is generated have actually 312 lines, and in the 312 lines 4 lines are void main to the closing brace, but other 308 lines are coming from stdio.h, that is basically added in your program, and as a whole the number of lines is compiled. You will see, interestingly, if you add conio.h, you will see your lines number of become increased again, because same thing in the intermediate code, in place of include stdio.h and include conio.h, the content of stdio.h and conio.h has came and they have stored. So how the stdio.h look like if I go further with this file and if I try to open that? So let's see. If I go to this directory, I will find a directory for include folder. You see, this is for header files. So if I go over here and try to find out different header files, I'm sorry, you will see there are a lot of header files present, and one of them is stdio.h, this one. If you find this, you see, you will find a lot of different preprocessor directories are present, where if and def and lot of things are there. I hope you can easily understand. You see. So interestingly, let's see, these are the lines that are actually added. Okay, so that is why ultimately you can see the total number of lines is showing 312. So that means compilation is not done on the original code that you have written, rather on the intermediate code that is generated after pre-processing. So from this observation, I hope we can conclude one thing, that somehow the pre-processed preprocessor code in form of some macro or maybe file inclusion or somehow like that, they are actually compiled. Okay, let's see again. Suppose that I have written hash define. So you know one thing is clear. If I have only this, you can easily realize with example that how many lines will be compiled. From this example we know that 313 lines. 313, why? Because this particular line is there, right? Now if I do this hash define, say x, suppose I've written hash define x5, okay, and suppose here I have written if def x, then printf hello world, okay. Else printf Kolkata, and finally endif. So total number of lines is what? Total number of lines I have here, I can see from this point, you see here, you can see total number of lines is 10. Now let's see how many lines is compiled. I'm sorry. How many lines are compiled? 317. Okay. Why? 313 was there, and then this line is added. One of this line will be added. If you compute how many lines are there, you will see it's total. You will find it's 317. Okay. So anyway, so in this way, from this observation, I hope we can realize that how the pre-processing is being done on the original code, and that's actually executed.